Gregory, no last name given. Some say he's a little turd who likes destroying things. Others say... Actually, you know what? Gregory is probably a little turd who likes destroying things. But if there's one thing I can confidently say he is not, that is a robot. And after the release of the newest FNAF game, Secret of the Mimic, which is not canon to the books, totally called it in our last FNAF video, go watch it, this theory has gained more traction than ever. And of course, since we're talking about the robot Gregory theory, or at least a variant of it, we'll get to that real quick, it only makes sense that we'd be looking at a theory by TDreads. Wait, what?
Wow, I can't believe Mappa and Tom were so stupid. Ah, fuck.
Okay, that was a pretty good opener at least. Also, before we continue, TDreads does go on to say that he doesn't believe Gregory is actually a robot, just something equally as silly. You'll see what I mean.
Scott! What are you trying to say? Why have you put this in your game? Matt had called this imagery out once and we all laughed at him for it, but now it's back. Again, a kid with dark hair and a dark shirt with stripes. He's unmistakably supposed to evoke the image of these two. I'll be honest, this doesn't feel like a coincidence anymore.
Well, it kind of does for me. For those of you who don't know, this idea of boy and animatronic under a one-tree hill has been a recurring visual ever since Security Breach first came out. It was shown in both the Burn Trap and the Vanny endings, as well as the Brazil ending in the Ruin DLC. Heck, if you want, we can even go further back, to the true ending of Pizzeria Simulator. My point is there have been so many variations of this hill, and I'm not sure if we're even supposed to know what it means yet.
But this isn't Gregory or the crying child, it's someone new, David Murray. So I started digging, because I wanted to see if our new friend David Murray actually connected to the crying child or Gregory in any meaningful way. One of the main criticisms of MatPat's original theory, the idea that Gregory is somehow the crying child, is that it relied pretty heavily on visual similarities. But now, with the introduction of David Murray, we've got to revisit his line of thinking. Because this time, we have a lot more than appearance. We also have shared personality, dynamics, and themes.
What are you talking about? We don't know anything about David or the crying child, outside of them both being dead.
But the meat and potatoes is what we learn about Gregory. Most of his backstory comes from the Patient 46 therapy tapes. Keep in mind that these are the most important lore collectible in Security Breach. One of the first comments made to Gregory here is,
"When the shade's pulled, it feels like we're in a cubbyhole or a cave."
Now back then, this comment seemed like a really weird detail to emphasize in tapes that were clearly insanely lore relevant. But that's because we didn't know David's story yet. In Secret of the Mimic, David Murray has a little cubby area set up, and the cave is one of the most important areas in Moon.exe.
Okay, but what about the multiple hideaways in Security Breach? One of these hideaways in particular hid the Balloon Boy arcade minigame, and at the time seemed to imply that someone was living at the Pizzaplex in secret. And at the time, all evidence points to Gregory being the mysterious camper, especially when you take into account the bad ending and pre-mentioned audio logs. However, now that we know about the Mimic, or M2, and how it was meant to act like David, we now have a far more likely suspect for who was in those rooms, especially when you take into account the mysterious sticky note room, where it seemed like someone or something was teaching themselves how to write. Also, the owl statue isn't the only thing you can find in the cave. There's also the prototype vacuum pet, as well as an underground city, which may or may not be hinting at the Pizzaplex being built on top of the ruins of the Costume Manor. You know, also like I've been saying.
The Patient 46 tapes then take a mysterious turn when the therapist brings up a tragic history involving Gregory's parents. But it's later revealed that the story Gregory gives here is a complete lie.
What I mean is that the way you told the story is more like you were reading something from a book than you were talking about your own past.
Like he's simply pulling memories from a data set. This is exactly how an AI would be described to recall and relay information. And it's not helped by the fact that the therapist uses the metaphor of a book for this, much like how we soothe David from within the Mimic AI, using a storybook reminding him of his past memories.
Oh, come on, dude. I can't even stretch my chewing gum that far. Even real-life people can look up information by reading real-life books. That's how research works. Also, in the secret ending, those were not memories. Those were bedtime stories that were read to David. Let's just skip ahead a bit because this video is...
The next Patient 46 tape seals the deal. During an ink blot test.
You think it's a mask?
She notes that masks allow you to hide, to get away with things you otherwise couldn't pull off. I believe that the branch of the Mimic AI that is mixed with David Murray, M2, has made its way into Gregory's mind.
Okay, now this part actually makes some sense, as we do know that a virus of some sort has already infected the Pizzaplex by the time of security breach, and thus could infect the chips in the vending machines. However, this does lead into another part of the theory.
The tapes round out with another twist. The therapist says that patient 46 has been seen with a glitchy, rabbit-looking figure. That wording is strange if it's meant to just be a person, but it would line up with what we now know to be Mexis.
Except Mixis isn't a physical being, he only exists in the VR world seen in the Ruin DLC. So it would make more sense for it to be Vanny, especially when you consider the Mimic programs can be copy and paste. So two people can be infected at the same time by an M2 variant, an M2 variant that I and many others suspect could be Glitch Trap.
Someone or something is trying to make Gregory the next David. The nail in the coffin? Balloon World. Let's talk. I want you to listen to how Scott Cawthon describes the way he instructed Steelwool to leave lore.
I had a specific story for this in mind. I was trying to tell Steelwool to do specific things, put specific items in specific places, have specific characters do certain things, because in my head, I was thinking, okay, when people find this, they will connect this to this to this, and it will all be revealed.
Now then, going to Secret of the Mimic, we can all agree that Fiona is Mrs. Helpful, right? Well, I want you to listen to the very first thing Fiona says, paired with the very first thing that Sun does.
A death-defying dive!
A death-defying dive? Stretching it? No.
How about yes? Everything you've listed is just circumstantial evidence. None of it proves that Gregory is being groomed to be the next David. Also, now's probably the best time to mention this. Gregory is likely twice David's age when he died. David was at least 4 when he died, given evidence in game. However, Gregory seems more likely to be 8 or 10. So he would be too old to be a replacement David if this was the case.
In the Endo Warehouse minigame, where you are literally programming memories into an endoskeleton to teach it how to be a convincing human child.
Oi, 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 oi.
Welcome to the Playpen. Here, young animatronic endoskeletons learn how to associate with guests.
Can we please just fast forward again?
In the New Game Plus ending of Secret of the Mimic, Fiona, David's robot mother, I can't believe I just said that, sends you up to the old manor to ask Edwin to fix their family. Where do we do this? A bedroom. One with a familiar layout and familiar toys. One that will later become the basis for a room we all recognize. We know this house that we're in, and it has this bedroom, is eventually repossessed by William Afton and rebuilt by 1983. This bedroom, it becomes the crying child's bedroom.
Or at least what we thought was his room at the time. See, in Sister Location, we actually find out that the FNAF 4 bedroom is actually part of a massive bunker under Afton's house. So he is right about it being David's bedroom, just not the crying child's. As according to what is believed to be the canon ending of the game, Murray's house along with the costume manor gets burnt to the ground, leading to the perfect opportunity for Afton to build his new house on top of it, and what's left of the mansion being repurposed as the Sister Location bunker.
Of course!
So the question becomes, if this much connects on the surface, what happens when we go another layer deep?
Yeah, this next part is actually just more circumstantial evidence, so...
There's something else worth noting. Around the release of Ruin, the first time we see the Mimic in the games, Steelwool started posting a series of Guess the Sketch images, but one stood out, a sketch of the Crying Child from Five Nights at Freddy's 4. The Crying Child, who we know has a ton of narrative significance.
Okay, that's a unique one, but let's compare it with some other sketches they have. We got Andre the Giant in Metal Sonic, Fester's Quest the video game, and a Fairchild Channel F game console, which I just found out existed. My point is, these sketches were so all over the place that Crying Child actually made the most sense.
Obviously, as I alluded to earlier, a huge similarity lies in the language used. Crying Child is told that he's broken, that he needs to be fixed, and that he'll eventually be put back together. These are phrases that confused the fandom for years, but now compare that to Secret of the Mimic. Fiona uses identical language when talking about her son.
No, she doesn't. Fiona never said the actual line herself. She almost, if not always, used the term fixed when talking about M2. These aren't facts, they're just narrative parallels.
Parallels. They're just connections to be cool. And I couldn't think of too great of a comeback to that, so I went outside and I walked up the hill.
Good evening. I am the Storyteller Tree, here to tell you all about what a parallel really is in storytelling. Usually in FNAF, people use the word parallel to just mean similar or the same. This is why most FNAF parallels discussions ultimately end in a big shrug, as most of the time story elements are just rehashed without much true intention to compare or contrast. But then we reach all of the connections from David Murray to Dave Afton, how blatantly the story is reminding us not only of the bite victim himself, but the game he was introduced in. Then we connect that to Gregory and how he is constantly being linked to the Crying Child, and we have to...
This is just your long-winded way of dismissing the actual counter-arguments to your theory without addressing them, as well as an excuse to toss the same, repeating, circumstantial evidence in our faces. Editor, skip to the end.
The Crying Child. How the hell do Afton, Fiona, or both get David Murray's consciousness, or M2 at least, to attach to the Crying Child? What if the entity in this plush isn't Afton, but rather has been Scott-conned into the version of the Mimic AI containing David Murray?
Oh, you can stay, but I'm leaving.
It would also mean that a Freddy doll is asking a child things about his identity to steal his consciousness, which would mean that MatPat's Lonely Freddy theory was right. Psychic friend Fredbear is just the game's version of a...
First off, we see a walkie-talkie next to the Fredbear plush in sister location, so him being the Fredbear plush is pretty much locked in. Second of all, even if Afton got Fiona up and running again, why? Why, in the name of Chipper and Son, wouldn't they just use this mind-swapping toy technology on Gregory instead of letting the glitch trap virus infect his little mind? But there you have it, the hour of my life I will never get back. As always, thank you for watching and be sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. Theory debunked.